They're gonna kill the love of my life.
David!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. You have reached Venus Unplugged. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and this is a virtual heartbreak hotel. And what we're exploring in these episodes every week is the nature of how psyche responds to love, what's going on in the unconscious, which is ruling. Whatever we don't know about ourselves returns to us as fate. We experience joy and heartbreak, and we think we understand it, but logic isn't going to help us. It's what the soul is experiencing. It's what the complexes are motivating us towards. It's one grand drama teaching, not drama in overacting, but drama in the dramatic aspect, the living aspect of how we relate to all things Venus, her dark and her light, all right? So one of the things we've been working on, okay, so we went over the mother archetype, and that's the woman who relates to everybody as their child, including her lover or husband, and she'll say, all men are children, and that's because of what she sees. Now, the opposite of that, okay, is the Hotara. And that's the woman who relates to the man and nurtures the man and relates to his anima, and the anima is the man's inner world, his dreams, what his ideal of the feminine is. And she is, kind of the female sidekick. She's the one that helps him. She's the one that he feels so wise around, bright around. She mirrors his dreams. Now, we have all these four types in us, okay, but we usually pick one and then go live our life, and it doesn't last. If you identify with the Hotara, and very often the Hotara is the mistress, or she can't figure out why she only gets attracted to unavailable men or married men, is because she doesn't know that this is operating, that she's coming from this point of view. So the positive side is the way that she relates to men, and the not-so-positive side is when she can't really have the man for herself very, very often, or he's off to doing something. So today we're going to discuss the old Madonna syndrome, all right? And what is that? What's that split? It's a split in men where he can love his wife deeply as the mother and wife, and yet he desires another, very often a heterotype, to express his sexuality and his dreams, right? Now, we see that a lot. We know that a lot. Does it make anybody bad? No. It just makes it split. And we have that within ourselves. So just notice, one of the hard tasks is to just kind of notice, are you treating men as boys? Like you would a child? Because one of our tragic flaws as women is in not relating to the man, in how he perceives it, we're telling them, you'd be really good if you would do this and if you would do that, or life would be so much better if you would just change. And that's all power. That's all dictating. That is not relating. Instead of discovering, what's his hopes, what's his dreams, what's the fantasy, just about life, about who he is. We burden our love lives. We burden those we love with projections. If you would just do this, then I would feel loved, and therefore you would get the love back. Well, that's definitely not love. That's a bargain. So in our world, in our modern world, there's been a great absence of Aphrodite in who she truly is. I mean, we've got a lot of pink porn and push-up bras. We've got all that stuff. But, see, she is the principle of joy, of laughter. She sees passion and sex as fun, not a bargain, playful. She moves through it with a grace and a charm, all right, when she's up, when it's the positive Aphrodite. And this is part of what is missing in our everyday life. The idea of this joyous welcome and the nurturing through sexuality, but that's been removed from the sexual act very often, okay? And it's either to make children or to kind of just get off, right? Instead of the play, the act of it, the joy of it. And very often we can have a totally sexual encounter without ever having sex. It's just that joy, that extension, all right? Now, the Hatara woman, she lives for that, and she's one of her downfalls is usually other women don't like her so much or don't want to bring her in because it's like, oh, no, she's trying to get my man. She's not necessarily doing that. What she does is she relates to them in a different way, all right? And in our current society, sexuality, whether the free-flowing energy, it's got all sorts of legal rights and laws and not relating to its magic, its power, its forces. And we also have to be careful because we get into an idealized, sexless spirituality. And that has no energy, no oomph in it, no libido, no eros. And that is very dangerous psychologically. Because when that force, when that wants to move through us, people can feel very, very guilty, all right? And it's like, wow, what's going on with me? How could this happen? And it happens because we cut off the flow. We want it, but then we cut it off because it's like, oh, what's that feeling, or what's going to happen, or how are people going to see me, or I'm going to be judged, okay? I want to be the good girl, well, or I want to be the bad girl. And the bad girl doesn't have a better time because she needs the nurturing too. So, this is exploration to look and to see what really stand do we take? How are we living out our life and not realizing that, it's natural to identify with one of these four, all right, but we need it to balance it by understanding its opposite and bringing that into our life, all right? So this Hatara, this woman, all right, is the one who will. Sex can be part of it, but it's the seduction is in the relatedness. Okay. Now, the downside of that is that she can lose herself. She can become, she tends to be what they call an anima woman. The anima is the man's soul, okay? And she tends to be a father's daughter. There's nobody like dear old dad. No man can ever. She loves the realm of her father and the fathers. And she does not get to balance herself out because that's where her natural energy and flow goes. Mm-hmm. And very often she won't marry because unconsciously it's the father. Nobody will be as... And I've seen it happen a lot. When someone's father passes over, that's when they really start to get a full bloom, or that's when the Hatara, usually when people go into the second adulthood, their maturity, and if they've been living through the Hatara, okay, where it's just all about the seduction and the And what I mean by seduction is relating to the man's inner world, and he's so great, and I'm going to support him, or I'm going to be a groupie, which is kind of weird when you're 40 to be a groupie. But usually at that point, the woman begins to realize, like, wait a second, I'm giving all the goods away, and I don't have anything for myself. My best ideas I've shared with him, and then they take it. We see this in history or over and over again, or the woman who supports the husband while he goes to school, and then he goes and gets a younger version of her because she's become, just the person who works and no inspiration. Now he's achieved his goal, he wants inspiration. How does that happen? Because we get lopsided. This is who I am. This is what I identify. Well, we need to bring up the other and its opposite to allow us, and of course the society forces this on us too. We don't even think about it. We think these are our choices. And in that marvelous film about the courtesans, where, in 16th, 17th century, you could only be a mother, a courtesan, or a nun. How's that for limitations? Dangerous Beauties. Wonderful film. Now, let's say with the mother, when she forgets the aspects of herself and her partner as joyous lovers and may unfairly fear the Hatara as the great opposition threat to the family life, and the Hatara blames the mother for regulating her attentions and nurturing skills to children only and neglects her male partner, as well as her own needs for creative, loving, and joyous sexual renewal, right? When such opposing attitudes, the female sex has become ruthlessly characteristically, or the categories of virgin whore. And we need to look at that. We need to see, because if you have that attitude, oh, well, if I just kind of let my libido go and I become seductive, and as I said, the seductive isn't like your, it's an energy where you're relating. It's not work. It's more, Aphrodite is the essence of play. And with the Hatara type, she's that inspiration. Okay, and we want to be inspiring to our beloved, to everybody. So this is a quote from Toni Wolff, and she wrote that Toni Wolff, she saw the role of the Hatara in a different light, principally that of a companion, friend, or peer of the man in order to assist him to achieve his best development and accomplishment, as well as her own. In that sense, she felt her own life to be dedicated not only to a man and their life work together, but also to study the distinct ways in which women relate to themselves and the world through the archetypal roles. Her understanding of this place of the Hatara rightfully among them. Now, Toni Wolff, who was the Hatara archetype in Jung's life, was the one who, when he went bonkers, she was the one that was there and helped him through his madness. And he never really talks about her because that was, in a sense, his soul love. And then he had Emma Jung, who was the mother and love of his life. So this was a conflict they were trying to bring to consciousness. Okay, so when we realize, wow, I have an imbalance in my life, just start to notice what your opinion of, the hoe, what is she? Oh no, I'm the good girl and she's the bad girl. What could be bad about sex? I mean, it can be perverted, but bad? And if we think about it, so much of the concept of sin is around sex, and instead of it just being instinctual flow of energy. Who has the right to block us from that? And there's so much of the patriarchal and the religion, and what do they go after? They go after Aphrodite. They go after the loving one, the sensual one. She's just, girls just want to have fun. She's having a good time. Why is that such a threat? That's what your inner Aphrodite wants to do. She wants to play. She wants to laugh. And when your whole life is involved, your body is involved in the laughter and the joy, that's passion. And that can't be controlled. So when we need to be able to start looking at, or if you're identified with the Hatara, okay, look at how you feel about the mother role. It's like, she's a heifer and whatever. I mean, what are you looking at there? Can you see how the mother relates in a nurturing and loving way and devotes all her life? So what happens to the feminine, to your person, is because when you're over-identified with the Hula or Madonna, the bottom line is you're dedicating and giving all your life over and your life forces over to the other. And then at midlife, the children leave and you're in an identity crisis. Or, at midlife you realize, wait, I've given my whole life, I've been the inspiration for men, and I don't have anything to show for this. Why did I give that all away? So the answer is to try to integrate the opposites, not from one extreme to the other, because when we're lopsided like that, we're going to pay the piper at some point. And it happens all the time. And that's what these explorations are about. So I'm going to here, so part of the qualities of the Hatara, she's the friend, she's the companion, she can be the lover. She's not always the lover. So it's not always sexually orientated, but it's orientated, you're orientated to relate to the man's anima. Okay, so here's what Toni Wolff, some of her ideas. A woman's spirit and sexuality are colored by psyche. And that's true. So we have access to all of this. We may be shut down because we identify, and the ego says, oh, no, I don't want to be that girl. I want to be this, all right? But it's all within the psyche. And very often, a deeply devoted mother suddenly finds herself in an affair. She doesn't know how the hell that happened. That's not me. Oh, yes, it is. Psyche, broke loose. Got tired of that, because sometimes that can be martyrdom, where it's, there's so much more to you. And the Hatara is instinctively related to the personal psychology of the male. The individual interests and inclinations, and possibly also the problems of the male, are within her conscious field of vision. She can relate to them, not tell them what to do. She will convey to him the sense of his personal value quite apart from the collective values, as her own development demands her to experience and realize an individual relationship in all its nuances and depths. So psyche influences a woman's spirit and her sexuality. For the Hatara, both her conscious and unconscious preferences require her to experience personal relationships in all its depths. She is in close contact with the male and sensitized to his nature, and is very sensitized to his nature. It is her function to nurture the personal psychic life of the male and lead him to aspects of herself and her potential. Now, the dark side of that is she can lose sight of her own wishes and dreams. Two artists get together and she absorbs and she plays the Hatara and inspires and forgets her own work. And then at midlife doesn't understand what happened to my life. And I've also seen it happen when, there can be, very important relationships that have children and family and everything. And suddenly he goes off and has an affair, very often with the woman who you once were when you told him your hopes and your dreams and your desires before you got formulated, okay? And let's say you wanted to be a dancer, okay? But then the importance of mother and children took over, and you kind of abandoned that dancer. And then he leaves you for a dancer. Like, what was that about? He's still looking for you. The one. And this happens. It just happens. It's not a plot. He didn't do anything. We related that way. We made a choice, and we didn't stay conscious of its opposite. Okay? And I'm not giving a carte blanche to people hurting one another, but that when we look at it without judgment, that's what takes place. So when we begin to realize, like, wait a second, I need to get my eros on. I need to get my energy on. I need to get my... and also the Hatara, she relates, to her animus, which is the male aspect of the female, okay? She needs to relate to that. So we need to look at what was our male, what was our inspiration, what was the things that we were going to do in the dream. Now, this is a very interesting... I'm going to read this quote on Jung on Eros, okay? So he quotes here, well, at this point, the fact forces itself onto my attention that besides the field of reflection, there is another equally broad, if not broader, area in which rational understanding and rational modes of representation find scarcely anything able to grasp. This is the realm of Eros. So it even baffled Jung, okay? In my medical experience, as well as my own life, I have again and again been faced with the mystery of love and have never been able to explain what it is. Like Job, I had to lay my hand in my mouth. I have spoken once, and I will not answer. Okay? So here is the greatest and smallest and the remotest and the nearest, the highest and the lowest. We cannot discuss one side of it without discussing the other. No language is adequate to this paradox. Whatever one can say, no words express the whole. To speak of partial aspects is always too much or too little, for only the whole is meaningful. Love bears all things and endures all things. These words say all that is need to be said. Nothing can be added to them. So this is Jung. He gets this realm, that how powerful these forces are, and we need to live them all. So this week, if you can, okay, just notice where you might be a little lopsided. Notice, like, I'm always concerned with also with the Hatara, sometimes she gets too concerned with what the man thinks. Don't worry about it. What do you think? What do you need? What's for you? What's happening? What are your dreams? What are your goals? Don't give it all away. Share, but don't give it all away. And so with the mothers, for the most part, is considered by the collective society as good. And romantic liaisons, which is the Hatara, in or outside of the marriage, are dangerous or less good, and for many, downright bad. And if we begin to see the basic ego positions of the four types are essentially different rather than bad or good, this is very important, different. See how much you judge bad or good. Instead of just, that's different. So, and a paradigm shift begins to take place when we see it as just different. A more objective attitude develops, both mother and Hatara, and lesser-known darker aspects that can become counterproductive to the creative living and safety and health and freedom of all the individuals concerned, both what we have idealized and what we have demonized in others, require a strong dose of reality. The tendency to make automatic judgments into categories of good or bad may need to be tempered somewhat. So when we study these different types, we begin to realize, like, whoa, it's not bad, it's not bad or good, it's different. And that will begin to help you kind of dislodge from this total enchantment of who are Madonna. Listen to yourself. When you have that much judgment, you also are imprisoning those forces within you, because you're so identified with one or the other. They have to flow. There needs to be a flow in psyche of opposites. That's what is called life. Or do an active imagination with the Hooer and the Madonna. There's something interesting. Both sides of you. Feel what they're like and see what would that be like if they were really having a conversation. Would it be an argument? Would it be attacking one another? Sometimes it starts that way, but then you realize, like, well, this is going nowhere. All I'm doing is I'm opinionated. That's not valuing. That's not emotionally relating. That's an opinion. That totally comes from the ego. Well, you're this or you're that. Instead of, well, what is that like to be the Hatara? What do you gain? What is this about? And the Hatara within say, well, what is that like to be mother and nurturer of all? Because you can work together so that these energies are flowing in you. And you don't wake up one day and realize, wow, I never really explored that part. You know, I never got to do that. I was so identified with one or the other, in this case, because these two types are the ones that relate. The other two types, the Amazon and the Medea woman, she's more about the culture. These are impersonal relationships. So we all recognize these opposites in that phrase, Hooer Madonna. And women have it within themselves too, and then they polarize. Not just men who go for that. So we need to be able to bring more life, more exploration, no judgment, just different, and it will stop flowing. When we judge it, it splits. And then, unbeknownst to us, the complex acts autonomously. You're doing something and you can't believe you're doing it. It's like, who in me is doing this? Well, the complex just said, fuck you, I'm taking revenge. You're driving me crazy. Or you go get drunk and have a one-night stand and then can't believe that you've actually done that. Well, it needed to live. And when we don't make something conscious, it's going to get acted out. Or worse, it's going to get acted out in our children, or it's going to get acted out in our society. So consciousness of these opposites is huge. And it's huge for that feeling of love and that flow. When I talk about love, I mean that Eros energy that wants to flow in all things. So this week's hot task, if you wish to take it, is to just notice, we usually wake up and the first thing that we look at. So the first thing that we look at when we wake up in the morning, wherever that position is, put something beautiful. Put up some artwork or put up some flowers, even if they're silk flowers. Make it beautiful. So your eyes open to beauty. And let that beauty give to you. Don't jump out of bed. Just look. Or if you have an art book, and if you can't afford flowers or anything, then just cut out some pictures from a magazine and put them up. So open to beauty and to feel that. Let that feed you. Feel that in your body, and then move through that in the world. Have that relate to you. Not just the responsibilities. or the importance of the whole Madonna, but the joy of Venus alive in you that day, for the day. And then notice beauty. I mean, we all have a different sense of beauty. Just notice the beauty around you, the beauty of people, the beauty in people's eyes. And that is the essence of Eros, the principle of Aphrodite, the joy and the play. And then you're in her presence. And you'll get a lot more done. So the lady, the queen mother over here, or the English lady, she tells you when you got to bounce. So I need to bounce and have a glorious, glorious week. It's a fabulous, fabulous week. And you can feel the lustiness in the air and enjoy it. Watch it. And if you can't feel it, breathe and then feel it. Bring it in. And don't judge your sister. She's still your sister. And notice these differences in you and claim them all. Talk to you next week. Bye. Oh, you can go on, download these on either Blog Talk Radio, or you can go to my website, LorraineNeithardt.com, and download that. You can call for an appointment, 212-757-8914. Bye-bye.
You're gonna kill the love of my life. If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Collide. Now playing.